The stars blazed fiercely across the infinite void, each one a tiny beacon of mystery and possibility, as if daring humanity to uncover the secrets they held. For centuries, humanity believed they were alone in the universe. That belief shattered one humid summer night when the sky above Earth split apart, revealing a fleet of alien ships so massive they blocked out the moonlight. What followed wasn't an invasion or a declaration of war. It was something no one could have predicted, an invitation. A man named Callum Kane stood at the heart of this cosmic mystery. Callum had no credentials to his name, neither a scientist's wisdom nor a soldier's courage. Yet, his unassuming nature and uncanny knack for reading people had always set him apart, a hidden strength waiting to be tested. He was an unassuming bartender in New Orleans, known for his knack for listening to other people's problems without ever revealing his own. That night, as the alien ships descended, his bar was packed with nervous patrons staring at the television screens mounted on the walls. News anchors spoke in trembling voices, reporting that the aliens were broadcasting a single message across every communication device on Earth. To the inhabitants of this galaxy, we invite you to join us in the Council of 10,000 Worlds. The message was cryptic, and theories ran rampant. Some thought it was a trap, while others believed it was humanity's chance to finally prove its worth among the stars. But Callum, who usually stayed out of big-picture debates, felt something he couldn't explain. It wasn't fear or excitement. It was familiarity. Like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life without ever realizing it. The next morning, as government scrambled to make contact with the alien fleet, Callum woke to find a small, metallic sphere hovering at the foot of his bed. It was smooth and seamless, pulsating with a faint blue light. He reached out hesitantly, and the moment his fingers brushed its surface, a voice echoed in his mind, "You have been chosen." Chosen? For what? Callum's life had been ordinary to the point of dullness. What could the aliens possibly want with him? Before he could form another thought, the sphere expanded, enveloping him in a cocoon of light. When the light faded, he was no longer in his cramped apartment. Instead, he stood on the deck of an alien starship, staring out at the curvature of Earth from orbit. A tall figure approached him, its silhouette outlined by the glow of distant stars. It was humanoid but unmistakably alien, with elongated limbs, skin that shimmered like liquid silver, and eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. "Welcome, Callum Kane," it said in a melodic voice. "You are now a participant in the Trial of Worlds." The Trial of Worlds. The words sent a shiver down Callum's spine. The alien, who introduced itself as Tiaril, explained that the Council of 10,000 Worlds governed the galaxy. Admission into this prestigious alliance wasn't granted lightly. Every new species had to undergo a series of trials to prove their value, not just their technological prowess, but their moral fiber, creativity, and resilience. And humanity, it seemed, had reached its turn. But why him? Callum wasn't a scientist, a diplomat, or a soldier. He voiced his confusion, but Tiaril's response only deepened the mystery. The trial seeks representatives who embody the essence of their species. You, Callum Kane, are an enigma. The data suggests you are both ordinary and extraordinary, a paradox that intrigues the Council. You will represent humanity. Before Callum could protest, Tiaril ushered him into a chamber teeming with beings that defied earthly imagination. A towering creature with crystalline limbs refracted the light into rainbows, while another, resembling a living shadow, seemed to absorb it entirely. They were representatives from other worlds, each vying for their place in the Council. Some were towering, crystalline entities that glowed with an inner light. Others were squat and insect-like, their carapaces glistening under the chamber's ethereal illumination. Callum felt utterly out of place among them, but he wasn't given time to dwell on his inadequacies. The first trial began almost immediately. The chamber transformed around them, walls dissolving into a simulation of a vast alien landscape. It was a place of extremes, scorching deserts, freezing tundras, and treacherous jungles all mashed together in a chaotic patchwork. The voice of the Council echoed in the air. The first trial is one of survival. Prove your capacity to adapt and innovate, to face the unknown with courage and resourcefulness, for the fate of your kind may hinge on your success. Callum barely had time to react before the ground beneath him shifted, pulling him into a jungle teeming with alien wildlife. He stumbled through the underbrush, his heart pounding. The plants glowed faintly, and the air was thick with a sweet, cloying scent that made his head spin. Strange creatures darted through the trees, their eyes glinting with predatory intent. He felt like prey, vulnerable and exposed. But then, something unexpected happened. Callum's instincts kicked in, instincts he didn't even know he had. He remembered the countless nights he'd spent listening to people at his bar, piecing together their stories and understanding their needs. Survival wasn't just about brute strength, it was about empathy and connection. He observed the creatures around him, noticing their behaviors, their patterns. He realized that the glowing plants weren't just beautiful, they emitted a pheromone that calmed the aggressive wildlife. He carefully extracted the glowing sap from one of the plants, his hands trembling with urgency. Coating his skin, he held his breath, praying the gamble would work. The predators paused, sniffed the air, and then slinked away, leaving him trembling with relief. By the end of the trial, Callum had done more than survive. He'd thrived, forming an uneasy alliance with a group of other competitors who recognized his knack for problem-solving. When the simulation ended, he stood among the top performers, much to his own astonishment. Tiaril's approval was evident, though its expressionless face revealed little. "You continue to surprise, Callum Kane. But the trials only grow more challenging from here." As Callum prepared for the next trial, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Not just by the council, but by something deeper. Something hidden within the fabric of the trials themselves. The other competitors, though alien, seemed equally uneasy, their glances betraying a shared sense of foreboding. What had humanity truly been invited into? And what secrets lay at the heart of the Council of 10,000 Worlds? Callum Kane sat in the aftermath of the first trial, his pulse still racing as the faint hum of the alien starship systems thrummed in his ears. His thoughts churned, fixating on what lay ahead and whether he was truly prepared for it. His skin still tingled with the faint residue of the glowing sap, and his mind raced with the surreal events that had unfolded. Survival had always been an abstract concept for him, something confined to books and stories. Now, it was his reality. Tiaril reappeared in the chamber, its silver form shimmering with an intensity that Callum now associated with its version of approval. "You performed admirably, Callum Kane," it said, its voice resonating with a hypnotic rhythm. There was a subtle undertone to its words, as if testing his resolve even while offering praise. But survival is only one facet of the trial. The second test will challenge a different aspect of your humanity. Callum's stomach knotted. "What's next?" he asked, his voice tinged with both cautious curiosity and underlying dread, his mind racing with possibilities both hopeful and terrifying. "Collaboration," Tiaril replied simply. With a wave of its elongated hand, the chamber around them dissolved once more, revealing a new setting. This time, they stood on a sprawling structure suspended in the vastness of space, where intricate machinery pulsed faintly and translucent panels displayed unfamiliar constellations, adding an otherworldly aura to its web-like corridors. The architecture was an intricate web of platforms and corridors, glowing softly in hues of blue and gold. Beings of all shapes and sizes filled the space, their movements purposeful yet chaotic. "You will be tasked with solving a crisis," Tiaril explained. "But you cannot succeed alone. Trust, communication, and adaptability will determine your success." As Tiaril faded into the background, a voice boomed across the platform. "Attention, participants. A critical system failure has occurred. Oxygen levels are depleting rapidly. Resolve the issue before the station becomes uninhabitable." Panic rippled through the crowd. The alien representatives, each unique in their physiology and intellect, reacted differently. Some bolted toward the nearest control panels, their limbs or appendages moving with frantic precision. Others froze, their expressions, if they had recognizable faces, betraying fear. Callum took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He knew he wasn't the smartest or the strongest here, but he'd learned something crucial during the first trial. His strength lay in understanding others. Scanning the crowd, he spotted a tall, insectoid being with multiple arms working feverishly at a console. Beside it, a gelatinous creature pulsed with vibrant colors, its movements erratic. "Hey!" Callum called out, jogging toward them. The insectoid being turned, its facete eyes reflecting his image 100-fold. "I'm Callum. What's your name?" The being clicked its mandibles, producing a series of sharp, rhythmic sounds. Callum didn't understand the words, but the intent was clear. It was busy and didn't have time for introductions. The gelatinous creature, however, responded by emitting a low, melodic hum. "Okay, I'll call you Clicker and you Jelly," Callum said, earning a sharp look from the insectoid. "What's the situation?" Clicker pointed one of its many limbs at the console. Symbols and diagrams scrolled rapidly across the screen, none of which made sense to Callum. Jelly, meanwhile, vibrated in a way that suggested frustration. "Right," Callum muttered, running a hand through his hair. "Let's break this down. Clicker, you seem to know what you're doing. Jelly, can you interpret for me?" Jelly emitted another hum, this one more measured. Slowly, through a series of vibrations and gestures, the gelatinous creature began to relay information. Callum's mind worked overtime to piece it together. The oxygen depletion was caused by a malfunction in the station's filtration system. Multiple components needed to be repaired or replaced, but the catch was that no single being could reach all the critical areas in time. "We need more hands," Callum said, looking around. "Or tentacles. Or whatever people have." He spotted a cluster of beings arguing nearby. One was a towering creature with metallic skin, its deep voice reverberating like thunder. Another was a small, rodent-like alien with sharp, darting eyes. Callum sprinted toward them, waving his arms. "Hey! We need help over here," he shouted. The metallic being turned, its expression unreadable. "Oxygen's running out. You want to survive, right? Then let's work together." The rodent-like alien squeaked something unintelligible, but the metallic being nodded. Together, they followed Callum back to the console, where Clicker and Jelly were still working. Callum quickly explained the situation, doing his best to bridge the communication gaps between the diverse group. Slowly but surely, they began to form a plan. Clicker would oversee the repairs from the console, coordinating the team's efforts. Jelly would guide Callum and the rodent-like alien, whose nimble hands made it ideal for accessing tight spaces. The metallic being's immense strength would be used to move heavy components into place. As they worked, Callum found himself slipping into a leadership role. He didn't bark orders or try to assert dominance. Instead, he listened, encouraged, and made decisions when needed. The team's progress was slow but steady, and for a brief moment, Callum felt a spark of hope. Then, disaster struck. A loud, jarring alarm echoed through the station, and the platform beneath them shuddered violently. Callum nearly lost his footing as the rodent-like alien screeched in alarm. "What now?" he muttered, rushing to the console where Clicker was frantically typing. Jelly vibrated with urgency, its hum rising in pitch. Through a mix of gestures and clicks, Callum deduced that a secondary system was failing. If they didn't stabilize it, the entire station would collapse. "We're out of time," Callum said, his heart pounding. "Clicker, can you?" He trailed off, realizing the insectoid being was already working on a solution. "We'll have to split up," Callum decided, glancing at the others. "Clicker, you stay here and manage the console. Metallic, you're with me. Jelly, take Rodent and handle the secondary system. We'll meet back here." The group hesitated, but Callum's steady tone seemed to reassure them. One by one, they nodded and set off in different directions. As Callum and the metallic being navigated the labyrinthine corridors, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The shadows stretched and twisted unnaturally, forming fleeting shapes that vanished the moment they were noticed. The air seemed to grow colder, carrying a faint whisper that prickled at the edges of Callum's hearing, amplifying the eerie sense of being watched. "You see that?" Callum asked, glancing at his companion. The metallic being rumbled in acknowledgement but said nothing. They pressed on, the weight of their mission and the dwindling oxygen fueling their urgency. When they reached the malfunctioning system, Callum was struck by its complexity. Wires and conduits sprawled like vines, and a faint hissing sound indicated a gas leak. "Can you hold this?" Callum asked, pointing to a panel. The metallic being obliged, its immense strength steadying the structure as Callum worked to seal the leak. His hands moved with surprising confidence, guided by a combination of intuition and sheer desperation. Finally, the system stabilized. Callum let out a shaky breath, wiping sweat from his brow. "Let's get back to the others," he said. But as they turned to leave, the corridor behind them seemed to ripple, the air itself distorting. A figure emerged from the distortion, its form flickering like a faulty hologram. It was humanoid but featureless, its presence radiating an unsettling energy. Callum's pulse quickened as the figure took a step forward. "What the hell is that?" he whispered. The metallic being stepped in front of him protectively, its body tensing. The figure tilted its head, as if observing them, before vanishing as abruptly as it had appeared. "Let's move," Callum said, his voice tight. They sprinted back to the main platform, where the others were waiting. The repairs were complete, and the oxygen levels were stabilizing, but the sense of unease lingered. Tiaril reappeared, its serene demeanor unchanged. "You have succeeded in the second trial," it announced. "Collaboration is a cornerstone of galactic civilization, and you have demonstrated its value. But the trial is far from over." Callum's relief was short-lived. The flickering figure haunted his thoughts, a reminder that the challenges ahead would only grow more perilous. As the chamber dissolved once more, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's place in the galaxy was far from secure. The chamber shifted violently, and Callum Kane found himself plunged into a kaleidoscope of shifting colors and shapes. His breath caught, a wave of awe and trepidation coursing through him as the very air thrummed with electric tension. This time, the walls seemed to ripple and shift, alive with a kaleidoscope of colors that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He stood on a vast, circular platform suspended in an endless void, the boundaries of which melted into the darkness. Hovering above him was a cluster of glowing spheres, each pulsating with a rhythmic light that resonated in his chest. Tiaril's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, weaving into the surreal ambience. "The third trial is one of intellect and intuition. To advance, you must decipher the meaning of the orbs. Each represents a fragment of universal truth, a piece of the cosmos' eternal puzzle." Their energy pulsed around Callum, a mix of warmth and unease, as if the orbs themselves held secrets yearning to be understood. Only by aligning them correctly, with both intellect and instinct, could the path forward be revealed. Callum glanced around, spotting the other participants. Clicker stood to his right, its many limbs twitching as it studied the orbs with unblinking intensity. Jelly's translucent form shimmered with a faint, nervous energy, its colors shifting in time with the orbs. The metallic giant from the previous trial was there too, standing like a sentinel, its expression unreadable. All around, other beings from the far corners of the galaxy murmured and gestured, their movements reflecting both confusion and determination. Callum stepped closer to the orbs, feeling their energy hum against his skin. Each orb emitted a different frequency, like a note in a cosmic symphony. He reached out tentatively, and as his fingers brushed one, a flood of sensations overwhelmed him, memories, emotions, and abstract images all colliding at once. He pulled back, breathing heavily, his mind reeling. "Focus, Callum," he whispered to himself. He looked to the others for guidance. Clicker was methodically tapping orbs with its limbs, its mandibles clicking in a steady rhythm. Jelly seemed to be attempting to mimic the patterns of the lights, while the metallic being stood motionless, as though waiting for something. Callum closed his eyes and let his instincts take over. He thought back to his nights at the bar, piecing together fractured stories from his patrons. Understanding wasn't always about logic, it was about intuition, about feeling the spaces between the words. He reached out again, this time letting the sensations flow through him without resistance. The images began to coalesce into something coherent, a constellation, a spiral, and finally, a key. "It's a pattern," Callum realized aloud. He turned to the others, his voice firm. "The orbs are connected. They're showing us a sequence, but we have to feel it, not just see it." Clicker paused, tilting its head toward Callum. Its facete eyes reflected the glowing orbs as it clicked in what sounded like agreement. Jelly shifted closer, its colors stabilizing into a soft blue, a sign of trust. The metallic being finally moved, stepping forward with a deliberate grace. Together, they began to experiment, each contributing in their own way. Clicker meticulously tested the orb's frequencies, its limbs moving with surgical precision. At one point, it hesitated, a faint clicking of mandibles betraying the pressure, before resuming its methodical work amidst the crackling tension. Jelly's fluid movements allowed it to mimic the sequences visually, helping the group identify the correct order. The metallic being's immense strength became essential when an orb needed to be physically repositioned, its actions precise despite its size. Callum acted as the mediator, interpreting the subtle cues and uniting their efforts into a cohesive strategy. As they worked, the orbs began to align, their lights converging into a singular, radiant beam. But just as the path forward seemed within reach, the platform trembled. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the void, one that was neither Tiaril's nor any of the competitors. It was ancient and commanding, like the voice of the cosmos itself. Only those who understand sacrifice may proceed, the voice intoned, its ancient resonance carrying a chilling finality that reverberated through the void. The group exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the words sinking into each of them like a cold, immovable truth. The glowing beam fractured, splitting into two paths. One glowed with a golden hue, warm and inviting, while the other was cold and shadowed, its darkness almost tangible. The competitors hesitated, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. "What does it mean?" Jelly hummed, its tone tinged with fear. Callum stared at the paths, his mind racing. The golden path seemed safe, a natural choice. But the words of the voice echoed in his head: sacrifice. Sacrifice meant risk, giving up something valuable. His instincts told him the golden path was a trap, a test of their willingness to face hardship. "The shadowed path," Callum said, his voice steady despite the tension. "That's the real way forward. Sacrifice means choosing the harder road." Clicker clicked in agreement, and Jelly's colors dimmed, a sign of resolve. The metallic being gave a solemn nod, and the group moved toward the shadowed path. The other competitors hesitated, some choosing the golden path while others watched with uncertainty. As they stepped onto the shadowed path, the air grew colder, and the light from the orbs faded. The darkness seemed to press against them, testing their resolve. Callum led the way, his steps steady despite the oppressive atmosphere. He could feel the tension in the group, each member grappling with their own fears. Suddenly, the darkness shifted, revealing a series of illusions. Callum saw his childhood home, his parents standing on the porch, waving to him with warm smiles. He felt an ache in his chest, a longing to step toward them. But as he reached out, the image wavered, revealing its false nature. "Don't trust what you see," he warned the others. "This place is testing us, trying to break us." The illusions grew more intense, each tailored to the individual. Clicker froze as a swarm of predatory creatures appeared, their mandibles snapping hungrily. Jelly's form flickered, its colors chaotic as it faced what appeared to be a consuming void. The metallic being's stoic demeanor cracked as it reached toward a figure resembling one of its kind, only to watch it dissolve into shadows. "Stay together," Callum shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. He reached for Clicker, his touch grounding the insectoid being. Jelly gravitated toward him, its trembling form stabilizing in his presence. Even the metallic being seemed to draw strength from his determination. The group pressed on, their bond solidifying with every step. When one illusion, a chasm filled with writhing shadows, loomed ahead, Callum reached for Clicker's trembling limb, guiding it forward, while Jelly stabilized itself against the metallic being's solid frame. Together, they watched the illusion crumble under their united resolve. Finally, the shadowed path opened into a new chamber, its walls etched with intricate patterns that pulsed with a gentle light. In the center stood a pedestal, and atop it rested a single orb, larger and more radiant than the others. Tiaril appeared beside them, its form glowing with approval. "You have passed the third trial," it said. "Intellect and intuition are vital, but so too are trust and resilience. The final trial awaits." Callum's relief was tempered by the weight of Tiaril's words. The final trial loomed ahead, and with it, the fate of humanity. As the chamber dissolved once more, he couldn't help but wonder what sacrifices would be demanded next. The chamber dissolved for the final time, leaving Callum Kane and his team standing on a platform suspended in a sea of swirling light that pulsed softly, casting gentle warmth against their skin. The platform seemed to hum with purpose, as if it carried the weight of the trial's legacy. The space felt infinite yet intimate, as though it was crafted solely for this moment. In the center of the platform stood a towering structure, a crystalline obelisk that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Tiaril appeared beside them, its liquid silver form radiating a serene authority. Its presence seemed to still the air, commanding both awe and focus from the team. "You have reached the final trial," Tiaril said, its melodic voice softer now, almost reverent. "This is the test of legacy. It will determine whether your species is ready to join the Council of 10,000 Worlds." Callum's heart pounded as he stepped forward, his thoughts swirling with images of Earth's beauty, sunrises over oceans, laughter in crowded streets, and the resilience of its people. Above all, he felt pride in humanity's ability to rise despite its flaws. His team, Clicker, Jelly, and the metallic giant, stood at his side, their earlier apprehensions replaced with quiet determination. They had faced the trials together, learning to trust and rely on one another despite their differences. He knew that this moment would define not just his own fate, but the fate of humanity. Tiaril gestured toward the obelisk. "The essence of every civilization is stored within its core. To pass this trial, you must leave behind a fragment of your being, a piece of your essence that will stand as a testament to humanity's place in the galaxy. But be warned, this is a true sacrifice. What you give will not be returned," Tiaril emphasized, its voice tinged with a solemn weight. Clicker's limbs froze mid-movement, Jelly's colors dimmed to a muted blue, and the metallic giant bowed its head in silent acknowledgement. The gravity of the moment was palpable. The weight of Tiaril's words settled over them like a heavy mantle. Callum looked at the obelisk, its crystalline surface shimmering with countless fragments of light, each one a story, a memory, a legacy left behind by those who came before. He thought of Earth, of its chaos and beauty, its triumphs and failures. What could he leave behind that would truly represent humanity? Clicker stepped forward first. The insectoid being touched the obelisk with one of its many limbs, and a soft hum resonated through the space. A burst of light emanated from the obelisk, revealing a memory, a swarm of creatures moving in perfect harmony, building something vast and intricate. The image faded, leaving behind a glowing fragment embedded in the obelisk. Jelly followed, its translucent form quivering as it approached. When it made contact, the obelisk shimmered with a vibrant array of colors. A vision unfolded, a swirling, fluid dance of light, an expression of creativity and adaptability that defied description. The fragment it left behind glowed with a soft, pulsing rhythm. The metallic giant was next. Its immense form knelt before the obelisk, placing a massive hand against its surface. The obelisk pulsed deeply, and an image of unyielding strength and protection emerged, a testament to resilience and unwavering resolve. The giant's fragment shone like a shield, steadfast and eternal. Finally, it was Callum's turn. His legs felt heavy as he approached the obelisk, its crystalline surface radiating an energy that seemed to pull at his very soul. Each step was a vivid reminder of the lives he had touched and the stories he carried within him. He placed his hand on its surface, and a flood of memories surged through him, the faces of friends and strangers he had helped at his bar, the laughter and pain shared over countless conversations, the countless ways humanity found connection despite its flaws. The obelisk responded with a brilliant glow, and the image that emerged was not a single memory but a tapestry of humanity's essence, its resilience, its compassion, its boundless potential to grow and learn. The obelisk pulsed one final time, and Tiaril stepped forward. "The Council has witnessed your offerings," it said, its voice resonating with pride as the obelisk's light flared, illuminating the chamber in a cascade of radiant colors that danced like stars across the infinite expanse. "You have proven that humanity is not defined by its technology or power, but by its capacity to adapt, to connect, and to sacrifice for a greater good. You are ready to join the Council of 10,000 Worlds." The platform began to dissolve, the swirling lights coalescing into a single, radiant beam that enveloped Callum and his team. When the light faded, they stood once more aboard the alien starship, but something was different. The weight of the trials was gone, replaced by a profound sense of unity and purpose. Callum turned to Tiaril. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Tiaril said with a rare hint of warmth, "you return to your people as a beacon of hope. The galaxy awaits your voice, your choices, and your contributions. Humanity has earned its place among the stars." As the ship's engines hummed to life, carrying them back toward Earth, Callum allowed himself a moment of reflection. The blue-green planet loomed into view, its vibrant beauty a reminder of all that was at stake. "We're ready," he whispered, a quiet affirmation to himself and the stars beyond. The trials had been grueling, but they had revealed something profound. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its inventions or conquests, but in its ability to forge connections, to learn from others, and to face the unknown with courage. For the first time in his life, Callum felt truly at peace. He had come to represent humanity by accident, but he now understood that it had never been about him alone. It had always been about the collective spirit of Earth's people, flawed, imperfect, and extraordinary. And as the stars stretched out before them, Callum smiled, ready to help chart a new path for humanity among the infinite possibilities of the galaxy.